in the 1850s or so, and the Russian Americas company that was founded to administer this area. Was occupied by settlers, whaling operations, fur trade, and troops. But that's not what happened. Well, maybe in a manner of speaking. The glacier that carved out this valley and a good 30 plus miles out in back of us was about 4,500 feet above our heads. And this is the last place that it was as it retreated. As it retreated, it had carried up and picked up all of those stones, pebbles, rocks, boulders, grains of sand, carried it along with it. And as that retreated back up into the hills here in the direction we're traveling, it melted and it just dropped all of that right there. That's called the outwash plain. The outwash plain. Because glaciers are like big rivers, if you think about it, rivers of ice. They don't move quickly, but they do move along, they inch along, thousands of years. So the outwash plain is the first possible trail that we can take of the 3 possible trails. That is the easiest of the 3 trails. It goes out about half a mile on relatively even terrain. There's a little bit of up and down, but it's not too bad. This is in a national park, Kenai Fjords National Park. So you would have the trails maintained as you might expect in a national park. So a lot of it's crushed gravel and is at least maintained in that fashion. So it is navigable by most people. It loops out, it goes out about half a mile, gets right to the edge of the creek that is actually fed by the glacier, and then the glacier will be off to the right hand side and usually presents itself well for photographs. Kenai Fjords National Park. We should have flush toilets here. That's a big thing. You know, people say, oh, we put in new toilets. No, you put it in an outhouse. Flush toilets here in Alaska are a big thing. They only put these in a few years ago. Yep. We do have the vault style toilets too. The park style toilets, if you're familiar with those. Of course, we have a bathroom on board the bus, but we ask that you not use those during the stops. We have flush toilets. Plus, it's a bus bathroom. I don't know. If I had a choice, I would use a regular one. Let's see. Oh yeah, right down here. So right here to the right-hand side, there's a little brown sign and there's some white numbers on it. Right here to the right-hand side, right where this says 1815, this is where the face of Exit Glacier was in 1815. Now, you drive up and it's only about 70 yards, 74, and this says 1889. That is 74 years later. It only came 75 yards. So that's 1889. 74 years to go 75 yards. This is 1894, 5 years to go 150 yards, 1894. That's where the face of the glacier was. And now we're driving. We're driving some more. Somebody stepped on the gas pedal to the floor. This glacier has been retreating at an alarming rate ever since then. What was going on in the late 1890s like that? Industrial Revolution kicked up into high gear. A little thing called anthropogenic forcing. That's a fancy way of saying people. What people are doing on the earth, we are causing some kind of change, whatever that might be, good or bad, but some kind of change. So people. Okay, so on our walkabout today, you can look off into the sides of the trail, and you may see, on some occasions, pieces of bark missing from some of these trees. We've got the alder trees, usually about 3 inches in diameter, and that's moose. Moose like grabbing that piece of bark and ripping off a 4 or 5 foot. These are the ones I was talking about. The flush toilets are this right here. Are this building right here. Flush toilets, okay? There's a ranger station off to the left here. It's a small ranger station. It's not open for another 10 minutes. You can probably catch that on your way back if you're going for your hike. It's got a little bit of It displays inside in some exhibits. It's not very big, but it's something to put your nose into and take a look. Everything that I told you about the various trails, the times and all that, when you get up here, you only walk up about 20 yards and you go through these big rocks and make a right, follow the sidewalk. There's a big map. It tells you everything that I told you. Take a picture of that, okay? Okay, so I'm looking at 10 minutes to 9. Let's say 10 o'clock. Let's say 10 o'clock, a couple of minutes after. I'll give you a couple minutes. Don't be too late with that, okay?
Okay.
Okay, so what time should we be back? Pretty close to it. 10 o'clock, right. Let's say 10 or 10:10. 10:10. Okay. I'll give you to 10.
So, but yeah, so that's what you want to do. And then you can make this loop and come on back. And if you check your time for your walk back here, if you have time, you can walk out this way a little bit, just to kind of check how long it takes you.
了解一下，我觉得你戴有点紧，那后面不可以调整。Well, if he doesn't have a problem with it, then you're his.
The bridge 挺有意思。走 ，keep moving。Waterfall 还是上去？哎呀，你妈就落到后面，别人后面。
Why does Mama walk so? Mama's just a very slow person in general. Like when she does a lot of things. 原来就是要在这儿测那个走向，是吧？别记不得。
往前走。
The bank. 是不是以北为准？比如说。
See you at the bus.
Go back. 哎，陈一文。陈一文不要跟他折腾了，他不办。
So that's all meltwater from the glacier. A little bit of rain, a little bit of snow melt will mostly melt from the glacier. And then that yeah, the ice. This is the largest ice field contained within the United States. It's 700 square miles of just ice and snow. So at its longest, it's about 50 miles long, and at its widest, about 20.
comes out of the glacier, flows out of the side of it, like towards us actually. In this case, it's directly in front of us, and like coming out of the side of a broken teacup or something. Yes, as we said earlier coming in, you know, glaciers are really good at doing a couple of things. The first is picking up all of those rocks, pebbles, stones, boulders the size of this bus, grains of sand, and they pick them up as they travel along rivers of ice, albeit quite slowly. They do move along, they inch along. But it turns out they're especially good at one other thing, and that is pulverizing and grinding that rock. It drags all of those rocks along the side of these mountains as it carves out. It has internally ground them up and ground them down into these splinters and powders. And in fact, it's so good at it, it's so efficient, glaciers are at pulverizing, grinding that rock, that it produces copious amounts of a material known as glacial loess, L-O-E-S-S. And glacial loess or glacial loss, depending on how you pronounce it. Glacial loess material is like a rock flour. It's such a super fine powder, it's a dust. And this powder material is everywhere. It's absolutely everywhere. If it weren't raining today, you could walk up to any one of these alder bushes that are like kind of like a birch tree, and you'd be sitting there being able to take your thumb and your finger and rub it on the leaf and come away with that gray material, that gray dust on there, and it's incredibly fine. As a matter of fact, it's so fine that it defies gravity. The little gray, the cloudiness of this water, you see how cloudy it is? Mm-hmm. That is glacial loess. That material, as I said, defies gravity. You can take a glass of that water and put it on your countertop at home and come back 3 months later and it hasn't settled down. Mm-hmm. That's how fine that is. It's a thing called Brownian motion, where these little particles bang into one another and they're like little billiard balls or whatever. That'll come into play again. But you can see how dirty that looks, right? You know, the Harding ice fields up there that's on top of that, that's actually what spawned, it's a surveying party up there doing cartography work. They were mapping up there the Harding ice fields that spawned all of those glaciers. They used Exit Glacier for their exit. Yeah, it is not very, there's not a lot of imagination. One of our seasons, we rivers, the lakes, and the streams. We even have a lottery to along those lines to some extent. It's a thing called the Nenana Ice Classic, and Nenana is a little village, a little native village. Some of the outwash plain here. I'm always looking out there. I've seen bears and wolves and moose out there. Another one of our seasons, green up. Green up. Green up is pretty self-explanatory too, isn't it? That's happening right now. You know, about 3-4 weeks ago, this had the brown cactus. They are the native group that inhabited this area and 40,000 square miles of this area. They found all sorts of uses for things in their environment, yarrow being one in it. That'll be on our left-hand side. Coming up right here. There is an eagle sitting in the branch of the trees. I've seen them there year after year. Okay, well, you guys have been pretty good. I could tell you a story. Want to hear a story? Yeah. Living barren in villages. The village of Holy Cross, his mother brought him in. He's only 2 years old. He was not very, advanced as far as its medical capabilities. It didn't have all the wonderful laboratories and until the spring. This took that off the table. Discussion, Mark Summers, Mayor Maynard, we're talking about airplanes, and it would be shipped up to the only, if you can see him, right there.
Yeah.
And so we had airplane technology.
I mean, pretty flowers. That's good.
Ship takes the airplanes off of the table. There's no more discussion of this, and it sanctions the dog sled Togo. More about Togo, a once-in-a-lifetime canine. This dog, the conductor on the railroad, handed off that cylinder to the first dog team, mushing team that was in town. And that would have been Bill Shannon, and sent him back to where he had come from originally, the village of Tolavana, 29 years. So Cibola does what he does best. He put Togo in harness. Now, he's got 20 dogs, and when they're racing the river and took it the last 41 miles into Unalakleet, Unalakleet is in Yupik. This is where Togo is Togo. That dog had the presence of mind, the 47 pounds, scrappy, undersized, underweight little sled dog pulled 19 other sled dogs. Leonhard Cibola, a fully loaded sled, a very antitoxin serum, and an ice able to generate some heat of his own, and he survived. Togo now leading off into the darkness, allowed to relinquish control to the next musher that has been assigned. Charlie Olson. Olson grabs that, puts it in his sled after it's warmed by the fire, and heads out. He sees what Cibola has. In fairness, Ed Ron had received the memo. He had received the message coming from Dr. Curtis Welsh that in fact everything should have been stopped. He believed that Gunnar Kaysen, the diphtheria anti would reach in here. So these guys will come out with their snow machines. That's what we call our snowmobiles up here. And they're really high performance, they're highly modified, and they can zip around here in the valley, bring the saucers and sleds and toboggans up. The tides, you know, you might have expected, well, you probably said, well, why didn't the Millennium just go and park up there in Anchorage? Anchorage sits on salt water, so why couldn't we just get in there?
Yeah.
And the answer to that is because Anchorage sits at the confluence of Turnagain Arm here and the Kinnick Arm, which is another arm off of Cook Inlet, and they are in an area that experiences the second highest tidal winds up there. There's 7 or 8 glaciers as you go up. It's kind of a mini ice age. And the angry little valley, just we're on this side of it. Whittier is on the opposite side of a mountain that's up there. It's called Mount Maynard. Well, Mount Maynard, you can't build around it. They needed to put in a second port to provide a defense here. And the only way to do that was to bring in the World War II onset there in 1941-42. Same thing. On this valley, slightly off to our right here where all the clouds are, that has a deep water, beautiful natural harbor. And you can bring the deep drafting vessels, big tunnel through there. They needed Whittier because